all residents of the United States, which Alabama territorial legislature was forced to accept in order to regain its status as a state instead of a territory. Alexander Lyons grew up in the immediate aftermath of slavery in Alabama, but basically grew up during that state's Reconstruction period when the schools and legislatures were integrated. And he would have watched white supremacists regain control of Alabama in the late 1880s after he had left for college, though his family remained there until their deaths. Lyons' family in Mobile were members of Congregation Shariah Shohayim, I don't think it's a bad thing, sorry, which was founded in 1844 and is still operating. That congregation helped codify the Reformed tradition in the United States and was one of the charter members of the Reformed Union of American Hebrew Congregations in 1873. In 1886, Lyons left Mobile to attend the University of Cincinnati, simultaneous to a term at Hebrew Union College, which his congregation had helped form 10 years prior. Upon graduating college, both colleges, he accepted a rabbinical post at Temple Israel in Terre Haute, Indiana, and married Ida Eisendrath of Chicago, who was also the child of Jewish German immigrants. They had a daughter in Indiana and a son shortly after relocating a few years later to Albany in 1895. Congregation Beth Elohim in Brooklyn hired Lyons to serve as a rabbi in 1902. Beth Elohim was founded in 1861 and purchased a former Episcopal church at Concord and Pearl Streets downtown, but by the turn of the century had moved into a former Congregational church at Hoyt and State Street in Borum Hill, which is where they were when Lyons was hired. And he was the first American-born rabbi to serve the congregation and quickly became known for his engaging lectures after services. Within 5 years, the congregation had more than doubled in size and sought a larger space and secured lots on the corner of 8th Avenue and Garfield Place in 1908, where they began constructing what would become the largest temple in Brooklyn at the time. Lyons argued that, quote, the ritual and custom and ceremony are not the most essential parts of the faith, that these should be subordinated to the spirit of the religion, unquote. And he stressed that Jews were divinely, quote, chosen not as a compliment, but as a call. He argued the ambition of Judaism should be to, quote, swell the dignity of the world, and therefore the primary duty of Jews must be the task, however tearful, of exemplifying the right relation of man to man and of man to his maker. As a result, Lyons de-emphasized rituals like keeping kosher, for instance, in favor of public works of charity and communions with other faiths. Lyons came to be known as the apostle of brotherhood and cheer, and sometimes even the, quote, Christian rabbi, because of his commitment to interfaith work, his promotion of togetherness, and his upbeat vision for a modern Jewish faith that could, quote, promote the enrichment of the world as a whole through works and by example. Lyons regularly lectured at Christian churches about Judaism and its connection to Christianity, and he welcomed Christian ministers and priests to lecture at Beth Elohim. He even invited non-members to listen to his lectures and encouraged his congregants to donate to worthy Christian causes, such as the YMCA and Methodist Hospital, in addition to Jewish charities, which he also helped organize and knit together.
And what was it after the YMCA?
Methodist Hospital.
Methodist, yeah.
He worked with a host of religious leaders, but most especially Reverend Samuel Parks Cadman of the Central Congregational Church. Lyons' conception of the importance of brotherhood was in part strategic. He envisioned a modern Judaism out in the world as the best defense against prejudice, as well as the best way to honor the divine. As he explained to congregants at a Passover meeting in 1911, quote, it is time that we become sufficiently independent, enlightened, and genuinely humane to refuse to bear upon our shoulder the chip of antagonism placed there by the coarse hand of a cruel past. I have therefore labored here and elsewhere wherever opportunity was given to lessen the stupidity and sinfulness of prejudice. And I say to you now, it matters not how much a man that is a counterfeit Christian regards and treats you with prejudice. Do not lower yourself by retaliating in kind and injuring your moral integrity with hatefulness, but patiently pity him, and by the loftiness of your lives indicate his littleness and your superiority, unquote. And at the service the following year, he continued, quote, with a heart trained by Jewish influences and a soul inspired by Jewish ideals, I am too much in sympathy with the rest of mankind of all varieties of denomination and color to content myself to regard myself as in any way shut off in relation in my life to to the possible welfare of the lives of others, unquote. As a result, Lyons sought to organize Jewish communities around a conception of faith that would channel their energies for the benefit of all mankind, a conception he put into practice by connecting Jews to political and charitable campaigns across the borough. Since at least his college days, Lyons was also a prolific lecturer and writer. He contributed regularly to the Reform Advocate, as well as many Brooklyn papers. And he even launched his own free monthly newsletter in the fall of 1918, named The Supplement, which described itself as a, quote, missionary of character, not of conversion, to promote the influence of the 8th Avenue Temple in Brooklyn on behalf of a religion admirable in practice as well as in principle, expressed in the sincere lives of fraternal sympathies and helpfulness for all men. And the supplement quickly gained a readership of over 5,000 people each month. Lyons offered advice on child rearing, dress, demeanor, and argued for the importance of education in his lectures, which were all also rooted in biblical examples and commentary. He advocated for better wages for public servants, increased social welfare programs, the scientific study of life in government, and proudly supported American involvement in World War I as an opportunity to show what a diverse nation could contribute to peace. At the same time, Lyons also vigorously protested the rise of segregation, lynching, the KKK, and he strenuously sought to, quote, castigate the paganism of racial prejudice by challenging anti-Semitic, anti-black, and anti-immigrant practices and fear-mongering. Lyons, for the most part, tried to keep straight partisan politics out of his writings and speeches, unless they were absolutely necessary. But he did break his own rule to officially endorse Al Smith in his second run for governor, after Smith adopted a much more active pro-immigrant stance. Lyons felt that Jews needed allies among other faiths, but unlike many of his Catholic colleagues, he did not oppose prohibition, and unlike many of his Protestant colleagues, he did oppose including Bible reading in public schools. Lyons blamed the Great Depression on, quote, insufficient brotherliness in the world to bring aid to human suffering for the immense productivity of modern life, but he did not exactly take a clear stance on most labor issues once they got tense. In 1937, at the age of 70, Beth Elohim made Lyons a rabbi at large, so he could focus more time on writing and fundraising to combat the rise of Nazism in Europe and in America. However, Lyons was soon after tragically struck down by a heart attack, just under 2 years later. I'm just beginning my studies in Lyons and his legacy, but it seems to me that he quite successfully mobilized a large number of people in Brooklyn to participate in and respect his vision of Reformed Jewish practice. And while this vision was heavily influenced by classic aspects of American Christianity and even patriotic rhetoric, it was also quite distinctively Jewish. Lyons certainly gained himself, and through him his version of Jewishness, a seat at many tables in Brooklyn, at innumerable interfaith and charitable banquets, at the Montauk Club, and even at the Knights of Columbus, where he was made an honorary member. I feel like Beth Elohim remains a powerful testament to his vision, and I also feel that his vision remains alive and well today, although far less secure or dominant than I think Lyons himself would have predicted. Lyons believed, and I think rightly, that successful diverse togetherness in Brooklyn could be an example for mankind. Early in his tenure at Beth Elohim, watching the dramatic growth of Brooklyn and his congregation, he wrote, "Brooklyn will someday be the greatest community in America, and only by our own folly and selfishness can we keep that from happening. It has an unlimited future, and its philanthropy and humanity must grow in just proportion." I do not get the sense that he could have predicted the dire twists and turns that lay ahead, but I think his call for brotherhood and cheer remains relevant and inspirational today. Thanks.